Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 7 of our series, Shelf Space with Kino Lorber, where we talk about all things film, filmmaking, and physical media, with Kino Lorber's head of acquisitions, Frank Tarzi. This month, our special guest is Kino Lorber's very own Rob Sweeney, who produces physical media for Kino Lorber's home entertainment label alongside Frank. Excited to chat to them both about the year they've had at Kino. Once again, we'll be answering questions from the audience, so thank you to those who submitted via email. If you want to submit a question for an upcoming episode, be sure to subscribe to our newsletter to get on the email list. But please stick to the topics of film and physical media. If you do have a customer service question, you can submit them at the link in the video description below. Hello, Frank. Hello, Rob. How are you guys?
How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well.
Good. Good to see you. So you two are colleagues, obviously, and essentially counterparts, because you're each responsible for producing and releasing different types of titles, alongside the third person in your trifecta, Brett Wood. Can you tell us a little bit about how you all work together, and how do you divide and conquer the titles you work on?
Well, it's not just Brett Wood. It's also Brett's more of a specialty. He acquires a lot of these stuff through UCLA and Library of Congress and George Eastman House and stuff like that. Like he oversees projects like the Pioneers of African American Cinema and
In the forthcoming Oscar Michaud collection.
Oscar Michaud collection and stuff like that. And he also is my co-partner in the Kino Cult brand that we launched last year, and he's now kind of going to be completely in charge of producing those discs. I'm kind of handing off those to him. And then Rob and I, we've worked together for a long, long time, and we've known each other for a long time. And Rob, Rob does some acquisitions here and there once in a while. I think you work with Richard and everybody else, but a lot of the stuff that I acquired that I think is more suited for Kino Classics in the past, like the silent films and the foreign films, I used to hand off to Rob, and he used to oversee those. Now I'm also going to be handing off a lot of the Studio Classics titles, mainly because I've been doing that now for over a year, just because I just had way too many films to release, and it just made more sense to share some of those films with Rob Sweeney, and he does a great job. He's going to oversee the whole packaging and creating of the extras and everything else. And Rob, you can go and say what you.
Yes, so in addition to doing some titles for Frank for Kino Lorber Studio Classics, I also do all of the theatrical films that Kino Lorber releases for home video and all of our distributed lines. So we distribute the titles of Milestone Film, Cohen Media Group, Greenwich Film, First Run Features, Raro Video. So I'm also producing all of those titles for home video. In addition to the theatrical releases, so I'm working on Paul Schrader's O Canada right now, which is a lot of fun to work on. We got Paul to do an audio commentary. So all of that comes under my domain. And so, yeah, it's a lot, but it also can be a lot of fun, depending on the project. But yeah, it's always a blast to work with Frank, and I'm glad I've been getting more KLSC titles to work on because I'm a big fan of art house stuff, but also of the golden age of Hollywood as well. So it's great to work on a wide variety of titles.
Yeah, it sounds like a good mix of types of films. How many titles per month on average would you say you're releasing?
I mean, it can range between 10 and 15 titles a month, I would say, for me.
Yeah, and for me, usually anywhere from 12 to 20, depending on how, some months I do more, some I do less. I don't do the kind of numbers I used to do in 2019 and 20, which I think I used to release over 30 films a month, which
was insane.
Kind of insane, but
you're an insane guy.
I'm an insane guy, and I don't even know how I did it. Now when I'm overwhelmed with what I'm doing currently,
Yeah.
I'm like, how did I do that? I guess. Anyway, that was that, and then so Rob and I, both have, there's things that we agree on a lot of times, film wise, and stuff we don't agree on, and I think our common loves are, let's say, Leslie Nielsen is one of those.
Leslie Nielsen, Clint Eastwood,
and I think there's also Howard Hawks and
I mean, for a couple years, we went to see every new Liam Neeson.
Yeah, that we had. That was
action
our
movie.
February movie. I rarely go to the theaters anymore, but he and I went. We would go to like he would like text me, Frank, you want to go see the new one? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And we would see them, and they were all great until the last one. The last,
Yeah.
that what was that, Blackout, or
That was pretty bad.
what was it
The-
called? Was it called Blackout?
I think so, yeah. And there's Retribution. The quality control has dipped a bit.
Yeah.
but-
So I kind of started giving up on them after that. I was like, no,
Are you talking about the Taken series alone, or all of his?
no, I
newer-
don't think
It
we
was
saw.
like after that. It
I think we saw like
Pursuit.
Cold Pursuit, and then the Commuter, and
Yes, Commuter.
yeah, we saw a few other ones. So
Beautiful film.
we also saw other things like there was like we would see some of the Eastwood films together.
Yeah, it's like we saw Gran Torino together.
saw Gran Torino together, and there's
That's a good one.
I mean, like I said, I don't go to the movies that much anymore. So when I do get an invitation, it's usually from friends and like, hey, let's go see something. And what was that shark movie that we went to see with Blake Lively?
The Shallows.
The Shallows. Yeah, that was one we saw too.
Yeah, great
Very
film.
important contribution to film.
Absolutely. Jaume Calais Serra, he's one of my guys.
Yeah.
Favorite.
Yeah, he also has like some lesser known, like you're a big what's his name, Anderson, Paul
Yes, I'm a big booster for Paul W.S. Anderson.
W.S. Anderson, not Paul Thomas Anderson.
Yes,
Paul
the other one. Yeah, the guy who dabs video game movies. Yes.
He's a big fan of his. I like some of his movies too, you know. But
So do you guys ever fight over the titles that you release, or do you have a pretty good idea of who's gonna do what?
Well, that's up to Frank. Frank chooses what he does with KLSC. That's his baby. It's like if he decides not to do one, he gives it to me.
yeah. And also I'm you know, it's like right now when it comes to KLSC, the films that I'm more passionate about, that kind of stuff I grew up watching and stuff like that, those are the ones I want to kind of do myself. And then some of the other really good films I end up that I used to do myself, I hand off to Rob.
The only thing we really fight about is like arguing about sports. 'Cause
Yeah, we would argue what's for.
he's a big Yankees fan, and
And he's a Mets fan, and I'm
Oh,
a Giants fan, and he's a Buffalo
he
Bills.
claims not to be affected by the Juan Soto signing with the Mets. He seems unaffected.
I think it was-
I know deep down
It was the best thing for the Yankees,
he's boiling with rage.
even though
It's simmering.
I'm fired.
So Rob, how long have you been at Kino Lorber now, and like how has your role changed, expanded, evolved, etc.?
Got it. Yeah. Yeah. It's been a long time. I believe I've been here since 2006. I started in a QC position. So basically just watching the discs as they come in and flagging any issues with them. I did that for a long time. And I think it was around 2014 I started producing discs myself. And we also tried to get more, like, one of the initiatives I was always proud of is releasing more experimental film projects, which are, you know, not always the biggest box office, but sometimes they can be. So I had a hand in acquiring the Maya Deren collection, the Ken Jacobs collection, and this Jonas Mekas release we did. But yeah, since 2014, I've been doing, overseeing production of the theatricals and adding more and more as the years have gone on.
How have you seen the physical media landscape change in your time at Kino?
I mean, it's, yeah, a lot of changes. I mean, other than the format changes, going from DVD to Blu-ray to 4K UHD now is, as you know, the most popular. It's also kind of the expectations of the consumer. Previously, I think you could put out something just on its own and people would want to see it the first time in the format. But I think expectations have changed to the point now where people want the more bells and whistles and in an O card and in bonus features. And previously, they would just be happy to see it at all. I think that's probably the biggest change, is the education and expectations of the consumer over the years.
Yeah, the thing that I always say, which is kind of, we have less customers now, but they're more demanding. So
Let's say passionate.
yeah, more passionate. But they are. There's a lot of ways. I mean, films, we used to be able to release a good HD masters and not worry about it. But now if you don't do a brand new transfer release, you get a lot of negative comments and responses on the forums and on the channels. And we actually also get the amount of emails we get direct from consumers. It's pretty big. So even if it's like something as minor as like a crease on the spine of this O card they received, to this film, this one scene, the subtitles is translated incorrectly, to sometimes really big issues that we end up fixing, but yeah, the consumer is, I think, a more educated. The remaining collectors are the more educated collectors, the
Definitely.
ones that really want everything to be presented in a nice way.
It's no longer the average consumer. It's no longer the mass market. It's a collector's market, and they know what they're talking about. They know what, they know their stuff. So, but I love the passion that comes with that.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, I
Yeah.
was one of those people before I got here.
Yeah, and I've always been I'm probably less of a collector now, but I always was when I was a collector myself. When I was younger, I had a huge LP collection, each CD collection, posters and comic books and everything. But eventually, living in New York, you just gotta pick and choose what you're gonna collect, and you start getting rid of a lot of stuff. But we wouldn't be anywhere without the fans. I mean, the fans are the ones that, as much as sometimes we talk about how much more demanding they are, but in some ways I don't you don't blame them, because they're the ones that are now buying these pretty expensive discs, because the SRPs for these 4Ks and Blu-rays are not it's not especially from the boutique labels, they're pretty high, and we're probably one of the cheaper companies compared to like some of the other ones. So
Yeah, they're pushing for higher quality, and
yeah.
so we have to we we have to do it. We got to raise the bar to meet their expectations.
Rob, do you have any crazy stories, from your experience at Kino in the last almost 20 years? Like any directors that you've worked with on commentary or features, any standout, or any or crazy submissions of commentary itself, from anyone, or anything you want to highlight over your experience there?
Yeah, I mean, everybody is 100% perfect and beautiful to work with. Never had any issues with anybody. No, it can be depending on the person. It's always like an adventure. You never know the personality of the person you're going to deal with. Like, it was fun to work with Abel Ferrara on Pasolini. He's like a very energetic guy, but he was very picky about, getting the lighting exactly right in the interview we did for Pasolini. So we had to like delay and delay. Usually, it's just very simple setup. There's not much you can do. But we had to make sure it was everything to his specifications. I mean, that was kind of fun and unusual. And the audio commentary that was like took the longest and was the most complex and frequently hilarious trying to get done was trying to get Grace Jones on the documentary. Grace Jones, what is the subtitle, like Moonlight and Balmy, something like that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
She was like so hard to pin down. She was in England, she was in the US, she was in the Caribbean. We would set a date, they would cancel the date. We couldn't set a date in the morning because she wouldn't wake up before like 5 p.m., stuff like that. But eventually it was like months and months, and she set a date and then she just showed up and killed it. And it was like a really fun conversation. So that was one where I didn't ever expect it to actually happen for how many delays led up to it. But then it did, and it was great. So you never know. It's always like, just stick with it, and it's worth getting it in the end when they do follow through sometimes.
I mean, when it comes to Grace Jones, I feel I wouldn't expect anything less, and
Yes.
I would expect it would be worth the wait.
You would want her to be a diva. I would want nothing less. If she was like
Yeah.
this down to earth person, I'm like, what the heck is going on? This isn't Grace Jones. So yeah, it worked out as expected, I guess, is the way I should have framed it.
Frank, what about you? Do you have any? Anything that comes
Yeah, I
to mind?
mean, dealing with filmmakers, sometimes they're very passionate about the film, especially if it's a re-release of one of their classics. If they've only directed one or two films, that's the only two films that they're known for. Those directors could be, sometimes they could be a little bit difficult, um, but it's all like the final product is what we're looking for. We all like we want to make sure. Yeah, there are some directors that this way, especially filmmakers that I've directed. I've had the pleasure of working with George Pavlou on his two films and Steve DeJarnette on his two films. Miracle Mile and Cherry 2000. And then in some situations, they're very passionate about those films because those are films that they made in the '80s. And they have like a huge fan base. George Pavlou, of course, did Rawhead Rex and Underworld um but also dealing sometimes with major directors, like when I reached out to to James Ivory to try to get him to do a commentary for Jefferson in Paris, and then we've had Lawrence Kasdan and other people like that that I've talked to. um many times, the more, in hindsight, if you go back, you sometimes change things because some directors, they need a moderator in there with them when they're doing an audio commentary. They need somebody asking questions or stuff like that, because we've had a few situations where the filmmaker goes into the booth and just sits there and watches the movie and barely says anything. So the audio commentary could be, there's not much of a commentary, let's say this much. But as far as, kind of a diva, I remember reaching out to Joan Collins to interview her for The Bitch and the Stud. And I talked to her husband, who, uh, Dame Joan Collins is not going to do this for this little amount, and she's not going to do this for that little amount. So we really wanted to get her for those releases, but we ended up not happening because her demands were very high. So
Gotcha. So
As you would
I guess,
expect.
I
yeah,
would expect.
exactly.
I would have been
Speaking
surprised if
of
she would have
diva,
said, "Yeah, I'm going to come down to the studio and shoot an interview."
Yeah.
well, Rob, besides what you do for Kino, you're also a prolific film critic and writer under the name R. Emmett Sweeney. So how did you get started, with film writing, and yeah, what are some pieces that you've loved working on over the years?
Yeah. So I moved to New York City to go to NYU for a master's in cinema studies. And then I moved on from that. And there I took a film criticism class with Jay Hoberman, who's a great film critic for The Village Voice and many other publications. And I did an internship at The Village Voice, and that's kind of where I started doing film criticism, which I still do as like a sideline, and to this day. I used to write for Turner Classic Movies for many years when they had the blog called Movie Morlock. So I would do one post a week, and that was a lot of fun, and also kind of training in how to hit a deadline every single week, coming up with new topics. As things have changed and publications cease to exist, you're trying to fight to find new places to write. And a lot of the recent things I've done this year, Filmmaker Magazine, I do a lot of interviews for, and I heard a really fascinating one with Rennie Harlan this year, who was promoting his remake of The Strangers, which, while it got pretty poor reviews, I thought was pretty strong, like a nice minimalist horror movie. And he was really cool. He complimented my daughter's drawings behind me on the Zoom chat, which talked about having kids. He just has like a small daughter now. And it was really cool hearing about how he grew up loving like the films of Don Siegel, another of Frank's favorite directors. And he saw Don Siegel shooting like a helicopter scene, I think in Telephone. And that was one of the things that made him want to become a director. So that was a really cool conversation. And recent years, I've been really interested in Indian cinemas, especially South Indian cinema. And I recently published an essay on the Tamil filmmaker Mani Ratnam. He adapted this book, Ponniyin Selvan, in 2022 and 2023. It's based on that epic novel, and so I kind of tracked his attempts to adapt the book into film with the life of the author of the book, Kalki Krishnamurthy. And so it's kind of a history of Mani Ratnam's film career going along with the pocket history of this Tamil film writer. And so I just published that in The Believer magazine. That's like a literary magazine from McSweeney's, the Dave Eggers's outfit. And I spent a couple years putting that together. And I just think that whole South Indian film scene is so vibrant and exciting, and it is very undercovered in the US. And so that's one I'm really proud of that came out recently.
Very cool. Have you ever thought about starting your own Substack or something like that?
Yes, I have off and on because as many places drop off. Like I used to write a lot for Film Comments, and that is still a newsletter, but it's no longer a print magazine. So yeah, as many places, stop supporting freelance film criticism to put stuff I couldn't put out elsewhere. It would be nice just to do that, but maybe someday, I don't know if I'll get enough support, but maybe I'll try it in the future. And another really fun site I would recommend that I've written for occasionally is called Screen Slate. They are a listings website for New York and elsewhere, but they also publish a lot of great criticism. This year, I published something on decades-late sequels to stoner comedies. So there were sequels to Half Baked and How High, made 2 decades after the original ones, like direct-to-video sequels. And so this is an important bit of film historical criticism that needed to be done. And I also wrote about a Chinese streaming service, iQIYI, where a lot of awesome direct-to-video action movies are being made today. So I would shout out that site as well as one people should check out for good writing. So
Awesome. Fun little fact. I wrote a couple film reviews for fun for Medium back when Medium was a big thing.
Yeah.
And one of them, The Shallows. So just wanted to come full
full
circle. with
circle.
that.
Yeah, I reviewed The Shallows in Film Comments, I think. Yeah,
Really.
great movie.
It is honestly, it's the movie you didn't know you needed to see, but you do.
Agreed.
So 2024 is coming to a close, and this is sort of like a year in review episode. So I'd love to hear from both of you. What were your favorite, Lorber Studio Classics releases of 2024 and why?
Well, I have to write them down because for me, I'm not sure if it's 2023 or 2024 sometimes. But, last year we released To Live and Die in LA, which was one of my favorite Friedkin films. And this year we ended up releasing 3 more Friedkin films, Bug, with Ashley Judd, and Rules of Engagement and The Hunted. All 3 of those, I'm very happy with. We continue to release the Eastwood titles on 4K, the Universal ones, the Eiger Sanction, Two Mules for Sarah, and Pray Misty for me. I was very happy that Universal restored Arabesque, which the Stanley Donen film with Gary Gripek and Sophia Loren. The previous release was a good transfer, but the opening credits were window boxed, and that really bothered me. So the fact that we got to not only release it on 4K but also fix the Blu-ray, I was very happy with that. Crybaby was like one of the mega special editions with we pretty much interviewed almost everybody in the movie. We had John Waters' help. He's an amazing guy, real sweetheart, and just working with him was amazing. And then getting pretty much everybody in the movie except for Johnny Depp, who was having problems. He was in court most of that time. Also released some classics, like Gunfight at Oki Corral on 4K, High Noon, and Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Those 2 I had released previously on Blu-ray. I was the first one to put it out on Blu-ray when I was at Olive Films, and then now I got to release the first time on 4K when I'm at Kino. Another one that Rob really loves, Hatari, the Howard Hawks, John Wayne classic. And then North Dallas 40. I've always considered like North Dallas 40 and Longest Yard as the 2 best football movies, and I got to release both of them now. I'm very happy because Longest Yard came out a couple of years ago and North Dallas 40 this year. And as far as Blu-ray only releases are concerned, I still, that's still important. We did some really nice, cool little film noirs, but Fletch and Fletch Lives was two movies that I loved as a kid, and I was very happy to release nice editions of those two films. So that's pretty much for me.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go beyond Kino Lorber Studio Classics. And if, Frank, you're not gonna like shock tease me if I do that, and I can mention the other things Kino Lorber released.
You could talk
Alright.
whatever you want.
Okay, so a couple of 4K releases this year that I was really excited to work on, and Andrei Tarkovsky's Nostalgia, one of a beautiful release, and also Alain René's last year at Marienbad, just absolutely incredible French New Wave film, and to have that in this format, I think is amazing. So I was really excited to work on that. A lot of cool stuff from Milestone, like The Dragon Painter. It's a Sasue Hayakawa Silent from 1919 that they've restored to its fullest length, and it has these beautiful documentary about how they restored it. Milestone always does a great job with the releases in that way, and with tons of bonus features, and that one was really exciting. And one of the things that Kino Lorber has always had is really good Buster Keaton home video releases, and we just put out a version of Sherlock Jr. and Seven Chances restored by Black Hawk Films, and it has audio commentaries from Adam Naiman and Matt Singer, and it new scores from Robert Israel. It's a really good set. I know people have bought many Buster Keaton releases over the years, so if you aren't out of money in your Buster Keaton budget, that's also a good one. And in terms of KLSC, I'm going to pick an under the radar one, which Below the Belt is a women's wrestling movie that was like shot in 76 and released in like 1980. It's a really good downbeat 70s road movie that really hasn't gotten the attention it deserves. It was just never released very well to begin with. But it's like a really lovely portrait of kind of just like making ends meet on the road, being a women's wrestler, not a lucrative business at that time. And I was really excited to get Dave Meltzer, who's a wrestling historian. He does the Wrestling Observer newsletter, to do an audio commentary on that release. And he gives kind of a pocket history of women's wrestling in the United States, probably as authoritative a voice as you'd find on that subject. So I was really proud of that release, and that film is definitely one that deserves more eyes on it. There's so many other things I could point to, but it was nice working with Nancy Savoca on True Love and Household Saints. Were also Blu-ray releases and really great American independence. I'll stop there for now, but yeah, it was a lot of fun stuff to work on this year.
Yeah, and a little history of True Love. Nancy and her partner Rich, they reached out to us saying, "Can you please pick up True Love?" Because they had worldwide rights, they had other rights for other territories, and we ended up picking up from MGM. And during the same time, Milestone was doing Household Saints with them, so it ended up being a perfect little marriage there. And Below the Belt actually is one of those films that kind of was brought to my attention, I think a few years ago, by Jonathan Hertzberg.
Yeah, of Fun City.
Yeah, Fun City. And then when he asked me, he was like, I was trying to pick up that film. Did you pick it up? I was like, yeah, I picked it up. I was like, "Oh, so it was like, when we did our, I think it was maybe 14th or 13th MGM deal, it finally made the cut. So
Yeah.
So it was on the list.
Former Shelf Space guest, Jonathan Hertzberg.
Yeah, good friend of
That's
ours.
right.
So
Well, it sounded like a very big year at Kino Lorber. Before we get into audience questions, can you guys give us a little sneak peek of 2025? Is there anything you're most looking forward to, or?
well, we've announced all the way up to March, right? And I think we have some really good titles coming out. The big one that people are waiting for from us, Shane, the restoration of Shane coming out on 4K, and then there's some really good titles. One of the ones that I've picked up that I've still haven't announced, so I guess I'm going to confirm now because people always want us to
Wow.
confirm
Here
something.
we
Is
Exclusive.
is Paul Thomas Anderson's Hard Eight, his first feature film with Philip Baker Hall and a great cast. And that one is, we're hoping that this year we could start working on the restoration of that and release it. Not this year, next year, and hopefully release it by late 2025. I'm working on a lot of different deals. We have some other really good, really great titles coming out. I'm looking forward to the airport movies coming out on 4K. So that would be a lot of fun.
Masterpieces, of course.
Of course. And there's, I'm not going to mention who, but somebody had during the pandemic had created a 85-minute cut of the 4 movies edited together.
My gosh.
And so he sent it to me, and I looked at it. I was like, "Well, this is really fun. It was really great. It was funny, but there's no way we could get it cleared legally." I looked at it, and so I have to call him up and say, "I'm sorry, but even though I had a lot of fun watching it, I don't think that we could include it as an extra." So
yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Rob.
Oh yeah. So yeah, February we have Andrei Tarkovsky's The Sacrifice coming out on 4K UHD. And I just want to throw out there, one I'm really excited to be working on is the Universal title, Law and Order, the Western with Harry Carey, directed. Oh, I forgot the guy's name all of a sudden.
that we talking about.
It's okay. I actually think he's a brilliant director, and I just forgot his name, so I feel like a jerk.
Yeah.
But it's a gray Western with
Ed. Is it? No. Is it? I mean, whatever. So it happens. We're getting older. So
yeah, I blanked. But it's Harry Carey. It's a brilliant early Western based on the Wyatt Earp myth. Different character names, but it's awesome, and I'm excited to work on that. And I am also working on the Blu-ray of the comedy, the new sex comedy Bottoms, with Ayo Edebiri and Rachel Sennett. And so that is coming out. It's going to be loaded with extras. So I'm just working on all of the bonus material now. It's going to be a lot. So that's something to look forward to as well.
Awesome. We've had a lot of people asking about that in the submitted questions.
Yeah,
So
it's still coming.
It's still coming. And
that's
so are the
exciting.
Elsa movies. I know those are going to be the big Kino cult titles. I'm also a fan of Law and Order, but this was a situation where I think Rob's a bigger fan, so I feel like...
Yeah, I mean, I know people are going to be excited, but I think I'm going to do an audio commentary for it. So I know that's going to sell. I mean, I'm already hearing people clicking the pre-order button that doesn't exist yet to buy it.
It's going to be a good one.
All right, let's open it up to audience questions. And we also asked, our customers what their favorite Kino Lorber Studio Classics releases of 2024 were. So I'll be revealing those at the end of the Q&A portion. We have a question from Peter, who asks, any hopes for additional new silence or studio classics from 20th Century Fox?
Well, 20th Century Fox is with... right now, Disney owns the Fox Library, and I've said before that they're not opening up the vaults to anyone anytime soon. Hopefully, they will do that sometime next year, maybe then a year after. But at this point, the chance of us releasing any Fox movies is not very good. As far as silent movies are concerned, potentially. There's one film in the next Universal deal, maybe more than one, but at least one, I would say. And Rob would release it, so because it makes more sense to be released as a Kino classic. So,
and the director I forgot, Edward L. Kahn. So
Edward L. Kahn. I said Eddie, so Ed.
Close enough, but yeah, great director, prolific. He's one of my favorite underrated directors.
Well, he was a very interesting director because he was making really great little, classic A movies at one point.
And then he got busted down.
And when he made a kind of a comeback in the 50s and with like a very cool, fun little sci-fi and horror films. And
She Creatures.
Yeah, the She Creatures and all that kind of stuff. So we've released a bunch of his films in the past. So
I'm glad you looked it up. We have a question from Ronnie who asks, I've really enjoyed all of the Kino releases of Guy Maddin films. Are there any plans to put out any more of his films in the future?
Yeah, so there's always a possibility we'll reissue something, but that I'd have to direct that to Zeitgeist because all of the Guy Maddin films, or most of them, are with Zeitgeist.
Yeah, it's their relationship that they had. I mean, even in the old days when Kino distributed Tales at Gimli and all of the other ones, I think it was Careful was one. It was through Zeitgeist. You know, Zeitgeist had built a relationship with Guy Maddin.
Yeah, we released Archangel, the new Master of Archangel, and got a new commentary with Guy, who's an incredible guy, as it were. It's just so funny and personable. Yeah, but if there are like new restorations made, I mean, we will release them, but I don't have news of anything coming down the pike imminently.
Gotcha. Fingers crossed, though. Dan P asks, do you think Kino will ever start remastering or upgrading audio tracks on your 4K releases? I love the titles you choose, and the Dolby Vision always looks amazing. I just would like some Atmos upgrades or improved 5.1 tracks on the 80s/90s releases as appropriate.
We have, we have remastered a few. As far as doing Atmos is very expensive, unless the prices have changed. I looked into doing To Live and Die in LA, and I think I was going to do a couple other ones, and then I figured out how much cost was involved. We decided not to do it. I'm not saying we'll never do it. We're probably gonna, for the right project, right movie, we may do it. Um, but we have remastered lots of films where we had the previous audio available to us, but found better elements and remastered the audio as we remastered the video also. So that's something, yeah. So I could see us doing it, but I think fans, the whole Dolby Atmos thing is that it's very expensive at this point. If it comes down, the price comes down a little bit, we probably see us doing more of them. So.
Got it. Mason Henderson asks, what is the best thing about being part of a company that is preserving pop culture history in the best possible formats?
I don't know if Robert will want it to be a filmmaker. I know I wanted to be a filmmaker. So if I'm not making movies, I'm releasing films that I really care about. So that's the best part of it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, no, I was always more interested in becoming a film historian or critic, and so being able to be a part of a company that's actively trying to make the archives available to everybody out there is really amazing. And that's what I love about Frank's acquisitions, is that he's always including these rarer titles that wouldn't always see the light of day otherwise, like Law and Order, which I'm very excited to work on. So yeah, no, it's a joy to work on some of these and to be getting these things out there in an age where it seems access to these kinds of films is decreasing as streaming services remove, film history from their services more and more. So yeah, no, it's of course not Kino Film Collection. That's where you can see film history come alive. But yeah,
Got
no,
it.
it's an honor to work here, and I hope we keep it going.
Yeah, you're really preservationists, archivists, stewards, of of film. And yeah, it's very important work that you guys do. So keep it up. Gregory P. Jones asks, in your opinion, what country is producing the most original movies these days?
Well, I'll leave that to Rob because he watches new movies. I rarely watch new movies anymore. I just don't think anybody's making original stuff anymore. Most of it is not that original, but Rob's probably a better person to ask that question.
Okay, so it's just because I've been watching a lot of films from India. So I mean, I'm gonna say the most original movies being made today are in India, specifically South India. Like there's a lot of stuff from Tamil Nadu and like Malikote Valiban, one of my favorite films this year. It's a film about like a fable-like film about a strongman going from town to town, getting challenges in each town. And it's like colorful and dramatic and unexpected and intense and goes places you don't expect. And then there's a film like Meazagan, which is kind of a male weepy about these two guys who meet each other at a wedding. And one guy just forgets to never, he doesn't remember who the other guy is and doesn't remember his name and never asks for his name. But they have this wonderful night. And then he reaches a point where he's like, I can't tell this guy. I don't know who he is. And so it goes from there. And so, yeah, there's these original dramas. There's these crazy spectacles like Kalki. It's followed by a number, I forget, but it's this sci-fi spectacle, VFX, but like very original, creative. So stuff all over the map, pushing the envelope, politically, explosive. Vashai, Vashai, which is available on Hulu. Is Mari Selvaraj made this movie about his childhood, picking bananas as a kid. It's this lovely coming-of-age film, but turns into a tragedy based on the real-life tragedy that he went through as a kid. And it's like pretty damning about the state of the poverty in this area and how the region is not taking care of them, specifically the bus lines. So, yeah, all these different areas where they're exciting, vibrant, politically exciting, formally adventurous. Yeah, that's where I would go. And they're all available. They're all on Hulu, Netflix, Amazon. They're there, but just nobody writes about them.
Well, I know Triple R was a big one that kind of crossed over into the mainstream. What do you think of big studio Indian films like that, kind of introducing the films of India to a larger audience like that?
Yeah, I mean, I love that movie. I interviewed the VFX guy for Filmmaker Magazine on that one. That was really cool. But essentially, yeah, it's a great film, but it didn't like get people to be more adventurous to continue to go see Indian films. The director, S.S. Rajamouli, is a really creative, big budget filmmaker. He did this amazing one called Iga, in which this guy kills his romantic rival, and the kid is reincarnated as a fly. And the fly then tries to kill the villain. So it's about this fly trying to kill. It's incredible. And just in terms of that period's VFX is like a coup. But yes, the other hand is that there's a complete lack of coverage. Triple R got a lot of coverage, but because it was re-released by this US company, it got kind of a cult reputation. But a lot of the distributors that distribute these titles in the US, they don't care or cater to the US press. There are no press releases, there are no press screenings. And so big publications don't review them or seem to care about them. And it's awful. Like, it's one of the lesser problems in the world today, but it's like the lack of coverage is always surprising to me. But it's just the way life is.
Hopefully you can change that.
I'm trying my best. Yeah. I hope I haven't bored everybody on the Shelf Space podcast.
Not at all. Not at all. Miguel Carrillo is asking, what is the most common delay for an already announced release? I know a lot of people probably want to know about this.
Well, it's the film elements usually. You run into issues. You think a film is going to be the easy transfer and an easy restoration, and then you scan the film elements, or before even scanning it, you get reports that it's in really bad shape and it has stains and damage, and that's one. But the second thing is usually when the filmmaker is involved, when the director is sometimes they're involved. You either can't get them to agree on a date to come and oversee the transfer and the color grading and everything else, or in some cases you can't get in touch with them. You cannot get them to answer your emails or your phone calls, or
in some cases you can, and they don't stop sending you emails, and that can be another situation where they want to change so many.
Right, they want to change things after like, oh, I know I said this is approved, but I just looked at this and can we do this? And I'm like, well, we're already altering the disc, so
Yeah, that happens
that happens
for
sometimes.
the films where it's their baby.
But then there's also you have some cases where the filmmaker's not young anymore, and their eyes are not very good,
Yeah.
and their eyes are seeing things that nobody else is seeing. So it's very hard to tell somebody that, yeah, you made this movie and it's a great film, everything, but you need to get your eyes checked, you know.
I did um, Martin Frost with Paul Auster, and Paul Auster, the writer, recently passed away. He was very technologically not with it, and I had to go to his house with the DVD and play it for him to show him like the scan of his movie, because he didn't have a computer, he didn't have email. So I was at his apartment many times.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Friedkin, who used to, he used to tell me to call him Billy, but William Friedkin, as he got older, he had some issues with certain, I think we did a beautiful transfer to live in 9LA, but he was like, no, I'm not happy with this. I'm not happy with this. And then finally MGM, and all their people kind of took our side and said, we're going to go ahead and release this thing. But we've had situations where, we couldn't get somebody to respond, and right now, we ended up canceling a couple of movies. So you guys kind of understand. I don't want to name names, but people understand who those people are usually. And sometimes the demands are too much. In some cases, they want to work with their own colorist at a very expensive mastering house, major studio stuff. And, we cannot spend that kind of money on a transfer, so that's another reason sometimes a new master gets delayed or canceled, um, or and then there's political reasons too. We had this whole situation with David Lynch and Lost Highway years ago.
Oh man, yeah, it was just fun.
Yeah, that was great. It was on a Saturday. He posted his negative comments about Kino and everybody else. And the funny thing is, the disc comes out and it's a beautiful transfer. So the transfer that everybody was worried about was actually the MK2 one and not the Universal one. The Universal transfer was very good. But anyway, the film
God
is
bless David Lynch.
God bless David Lynch. I'm a huge fan of his. The film is now with Criterion where he wanted it to be. So
Yeah.
I'm glad he got what he wanted. So
Yeah.
For many different reasons. And sometimes you're trying to chase down Grace Jones, that
Exactly.
could be a reason too.
Yeah. That one definitely had some delays that are
Joe Milner is asking, how big of an obstacle are music rights when trying to get a film's rights?
it could be huge, film like some films have 6-figure amounts attached to the clearance of the music rights. Some films have just one song and the artist is looking for $45,000 to $50,000 for the one song. So there's a lot of different ones. And sometimes it's just because they don't have the needed paperwork. A lot of older movies that are not musically cleared, the studio cannot find the paperwork that clears the music. And for that reason, they're like, well, we're not willing to license this film. There's ways around it. Sometimes they allow the smaller label to kind of handle the clearance, because if you go to a lawyer and say, I'm this little known company trying to clear the music for this film that I want to release on DVD, they'll probably ask for less money than if a major studio shows up and says we want to do it. So that happens. So, but yeah, it could be very difficult, and it has nothing to do with it plays on television. Yeah, I mean, there's films that have played on television in the past that will never come out on disc because the music clearance
completely different rights.
Right, there's different rights. And then there's also territories. Like just because music is not clear in the US, that doesn't mean that it wasn't clear in the UK, or UK laws are the same as the US laws. There's different. So people are like, well, this got released in this country or that country. I'm like, well, yeah, but they don't have those issues. We do. So
The long answer short, it's a big obstacle. It
It
can
could
be a
be. It
big.
could be. It also could be very small too. It could be like as much as paying
It
$2,000
ranges.
and clearing a song, clearing a
Yeah.
song, and then getting the film released. Yeah.
Kenneth is asking, what are a few of Frank and Rob's favorite crime gems that most casual movie fans haven't heard of?
Crime gems.
Oof. I mean,
I would say,
I-
well, go ahead.
the first one that popped in my head is Andre Detot's Crime Wave. That movie is incredible.
Yeah, we're going older. I'm gonna go a little newer. I'm gonna go with The Outfit.
Oh, yeah.
Robert Duvall, Jolan Baker. That movie kicks ass.
Yeah, it's based on the Richard Stark,
Yeah,
Donald Westlake
Yeah.
novel.
that's one that it's not seen enough. And if I ever do a Warner Brother deal, I would love to release that one. So, and now somebody else is gonna hear that and gonna go get it released.
Is he your favorite Parker, or do you prefer Lee Marvin or Jason Statham?
No, I prefer Lee Marvin's my favorite Parker. I like Mel Gibson a bit more than Jason Statham.
payback,
So, I know you're a big Jason Statham fan.
Yes, but he's not a great fit. Parker's supposed to be this huge hulking.
Yeah, well, Mel Gibson's not huge of hulking, but he has presence.
He does.
I would say Robert Duvall is not very huge in hulk.
No, but it's a great.
No, I think Lee Marvin. You cannot argue with Lee Marvin being the best Parker, but the Outfit is incredible. I think so. Well, that's just one. I mean, there's so many other ones that I could think of, but that came to my because I've been thinking about that movie. I watched it again a few months ago and thought how great that was. So
Good pick.
and then there's also other things happen. Like we released Charlie Varick on Blu-ray and on 4K. We did a new transfer. And then we announced that it's coming soon on 4K, but we had to cancel it because there's new legal issues that have popped up
Oh man,
that are not allowing us to do a new transfer. So that's why Charlie Varick got canceled. So
always something fun popping up.
Rob, did you name some, or did I miss?
I threw in Andre Detot's Crime Wave, which is an awesome,
right.
quick, nasty crime movie.
it's a great little film, without a doubt.
Awesome. Josh is asking, has Kino Lorber ever considered going the boutique/deluxe edition versus the bare bones route, or is the bottom line cost effectiveness and lower prices for consumers?
Bare bones route.
How dare you?
I mean, we have films with like 30 extras sometimes. I mean, not everything. We just don't separate them as special edition or non-special edition. Crybaby we did 20 extras for that. So and Taking It Back 1 to 3, we did like 7 or 8 extras. Deep Rising, we did 7 or 8. We don't always do them. If the previous release, studio release is loaded with extras, what can we do? So
Well,
we
he
did as
goes on
much.
to say,
I'm sorry.
he goes on to say, I mean, would it kill you to add a booklet once in a while? Teasing, love Kino Lorber, but
I
our
personally
collectors.
hate booklets. So they just create additional work. I don't like them. Fans like them. We've included a few. Yeah, I know that Julie Kurgo has written a few for us, and we included them for the Night Stalker and Night Strangler and a few other ones I've done. You actually wrote one a few years ago for the Anthony Mann, Gary Cooper Western,
Man of the West.
Man of the West. But yeah, I mean, if they love booklets, we're not for them. I know the Kino Classics side, they usually include booklets more often, but we even that side of the business is doing it less and less of that. So
Yeah, I've always liked them, but they can be expensive and be a pain in the butt in terms of many different things. But I am real proud of some of the things I put out in booklet form, like the Ken Jacobs collection. It's probably my most proud release that I've overseen here at Kino, because I shepherded it through over many years through the acquisitions process. Ken Jacobs was a professor of mine when I went to the University of Binghamton. And finally came out. We got beautiful restorations and also got a booklet from Jay Hoberman, who was my professor at NYU.
That
a lot of
makes
personal
sense.
And Jim Hoberman also had Ken Jacobs as his professor.
Yeah, if I did a collection of films or something like that, I could think about also doing that. I know Lost Highway had a booklet that we could not include. So going back, and we had a Tim Lucas commentary that we could not include. So there's that. But we also had we were planning this Stanley Kubrick complete 1950s box set that we were going to release. We already paid for the essay. It was going to have a 20-page essay with really nice original photographs, and it was going to
Don't
include
please people like this.
No, hey, Criterion is going to get the movies back, so they'll be fine with it. And the main thing is that we
there you go.
were going to include all of Stanley Kubrick's 1950s films and a really nice packaging, and we had to cancel it. So
such is life.
There you go. There's your answer. David Stegman asks, will there be any more horror and sci-fi collection sets in 2025?
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
Horror and sci-fi collections in 2025.
I'm going to try my best because the Republic Pictures collection that I put out did very well, and the sci-fi one that I put out did very well. If I could come up with some, I will do them, but I cannot promise it. If I had to guess, better chance of that happening maybe in 2026 and 2025. That's what I would say.
Corey Walker asks, from a sales perspective, do your customers prefer 4K releases the most?
Do I or do the customers?
Depends on the customer, but
well, the 4K is the 4K is the most successful format right now. It's the one format that's continuing to grow. Everything else every year is declining. The sales for Blu-rays are declining every year. The sales for DVDs are declining every year. The sales for 4K continues to grow, but there's so much to release on 4K. I personally, I would love for all my favorite movies to be released on 4K. But I think a really nice Blu-ray transfer from a 4K scan, watched on a 4K TV, is also beautiful. Like I've said, I've done a lot of these 4K restorations that come out on Blu-ray look great on the 4K TVs. So it doesn't have to be just 4K discs, HDR, Dolby Vision. It could also be either SDR or regular 4K restoration on HD. So, what do you prefer?
Okay, a couple more questions, and then I'm going to reveal the customer's favorite releases of the year, and then we'll wrap up. Tom Campo asks, love Kino Lorber for all you do, but especially all the classic 3D releases. Also love it when you issue 60s and 70s spy/Euro spy films. Any more possibilities for more spy/espionage via the MGM or Studio Canal libraries, for example?
I wish they did better. I'm a big fan of that genre, the James Bond ripoffs and wannabes. We did the OSS films, and we've done other ones. There's a couple with MGM that hasn't been released yet. A couple with Studio Canal that haven't been released yet. I try to pick up the ones that I think is going to do well, but so far, none of those films I've sold really well for us. I think the ones that would do well if they were available to me, the Matt Helm films, I think would sell well, especially the first and last one, the two Phil Carson ones, and then I think the Flint movies, that are with Fox, those would do well. And then the more serious ones like the Quiller Memorandum and then espionage also kind of sometimes could go into the guys on the mission, kind of like a movie like Where Eagles Dare is espionage also. As much as an action film and a war film, it's also espionage. Operation Crossbow is espionage, but also a war film. So like I said, the right ones would do well, but majority of them do not sell well enough for us to continue doing them. So they come to us at a reasonable price, and especially if they've been remastered, it makes it easier. If they have a new transfer for like color films from the '60s and all that kind of stuff, Film elements could be anywhere and all over Europe. They just make them very complicated.
Well, I do want to ask about updates on one particular release because so many people asked about this. What happened to the announced Ilsa films on 4K? What's the latest on that?
We're in the color grading process. We have, I'm hoping the studio and us and all of us are going to we're working on that. The masters, hopefully, I just asked for the ETA today. They said soon. I said, how soon? So I'm hoping that by February or March, we would have the masters in-house. And then hopefully by the summer, we get to release them. They're going to come out on 4K Blu-ray 2-packs, each one with the numbered spine. But we're also going to put them in a box set. The box set may just include the 4K discs and not the Blu-rays, but that's the plan. So
Very cool. So thank you everyone for your patience, but it is coming. It's coming. Okay, well, without further ado, I'm going to announce our customers' favorite Kino Lorber Studio Classics releases of 2024. The winner with the most votes is Play a Misty for Me, the Clint Eastwood movie with the late, great Jessica Walter. The runner-up, we have a tie between Bad Lieutenant and the Republic Pictures Horror Collection.
nice.
And then in third place, we have a 5-way tie between Arabesque, Bug, Face Off, No Way Out, and Sudden Death. So they're all
What was
over
the
the
last
place.
one?
Sudden death.
Sudden Death.
Sudden Death, yeah.
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
That's right.
You didn't have any in the top.
Throwing me under the bus here, Frank. Oh my gosh. What's all right? I got Juan Soto. It's okay. I'll be all right.
Well, I even with foreign films, I some of the films I decide to release myself, like Alphaville and Diary of a Chambermaid, that's going to come out soon. But yeah, you could have one sort of.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
He's still the Mets, you know that.
It's a new era.
No, it's a new era. They've been saying that for like 50 years. When is a new era?
Starts now.
Yeah. You're still the Mets, we're still the Yankees. Just remember that.
Well, we'll see what happens.
You guys get excited about making playoffs. We get excited about winning championships.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, it's been a really great year at Kino Lorber. Can't wait to see what happens in 2025. So I just want to say thank you, Rob, for being here. Thank you, Frank, as always. Thank you to the audience for submitting your questions. And of course, you can find some of the titles that we discussed today, along with thousands of others at kinolorber.com or klstudiosclassics.com. Both the links are in the description below. And while you're there, please sign up for our newsletter if you haven't already, and be sure to follow us on social. Thank you so much, everyone. Be sure to check back next month for episode 8, and we'll see you next time. See you next year.
See ya.
Bye, everyone.